What's up, Joelle? Thanks for
Hey.
finally coming by the podcast room.
This is so exciting.
It's
Thank you.
crazy how much time goes by to be like, you've never seen this room. I'm like, I've had this room for like almost a year now.
I know.
And you're like, holy crap, I haven't even been here.
COVID, man. Like, it's really stopped like the whole social aspect of our jobs, and so I'm excited to see it finally. And it's way more impressive than I thought.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. So I know who you are, and all my followers will know who you are. But if someone doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell everyone who you are?
I am Joelle Southern. I'm a loan officer with Movement Mortgage. I'm from Yucaipa, but have been working in Riverside for almost 9 years now.
Awesome. So one tip I have was going to be, if you try to sell people using you as your loan officer, I'm cutting you off this podcast.
I'm not selling myself. I'm here.
Adrian,
my name's Joelle Southern.
Adrian, you're leaving that in.
I'm just his friend.
I am. So the reason why I wanted to have Joelle in here is because obviously it's an interesting story that you have, right? Because I have a lot of people think that most people in this industry went into real estate because maybe their parents were in real estate, or I was when I was a kid I used to go do the caravans with my dad. But me and you have something in common. We kind of just got into it by accident, and it's kind of worked out pretty good for us. So why don't you tell people how you even got into real estate?
Yeah, it's a wild story. So I was in art school, actually, going for my bachelor's in graphic design at the Art Institutes, and the market crashed. I was in my second year, not really liking it, and kind of thinking I should probably, second guess this idea because I'm going to be in a whole lot of debt if I continue on. So decided to drop out, but then that was 2010. So then around 2010-11, I got a pretty good job as a project manager for HUD Homes, and I was doing that for about a year, but then all of a sudden that job was just totally eliminated.
So let's kill people that's not in real estate. So 2009 and 10 we were going through the worst market crash of all time. We had about 4,000 houses on the market just in Riverside. And what HUD was the program that would go through and handle all the foreclosures.
Exactly,
because everyone
all
lost
foreclosures. We did the basically the fix-ups to get them for resale, and then they just stopped selling. So we just stopped getting the inventory, and there was just nothing for me to do at that job. They eliminated my position. Basically I walked in and they took my laptop and said, "I'm so sorry, but there's just no position for you here anymore." So I was freaked out because obviously it was a pretty good job getting me by. Still trying to figure out what I was going to do because
How old were you at this point?
Let's see, I was 22. 21 is when I quit school and then got the job. And then I was 22 when they basically said, we have to let you go. And then so I was living with my husband. He was my boyfriend at the time, and he was working as a property manager. And I already knew real estate and had people that I knew were in real estate, but I never thought that's what I wanted to do. So I was just I will work and do whatever I need to do to just get by for right now until I figure it out. Because I noticed every job interview I was going on, there was huge groups of people. I mean, there was no individual interviews, and I was getting freaked out because I was going to job interview after job interview. So I got to the point where I was literally going on the computer every morning from 9 to 12 applying anywhere, that anything that I could find that was a receptionist, assistant position. So I did that for almost a year. I even went back to riding horses, because I used to ride horses and train horses. I started going back to my roots and training horses for this old lady just to make some money while I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So I finally applied to this ad on Craigslist, and it was a receptionist assistant position in Riverside, which is probably a little bit more further away than I wanted to be, just because commuting with no money is gonna put a little bit of a damper on the travel aspect of it. But I was just so destroyed from all of the job interviews I've been. So I just thought it in my mind. I was I'm not gonna get it. I was psyching myself out the whole ride there. So I got to Riverside. It was in the Redlands, University of Redlands building on Central, and it was this tiny little office. And I sat down with Lois, who was my market leader at the time. She was interviewing me, and she asked me the same questions they always ask, and I'm just yeah, I would really like to be here. And she's like, well, this is a mortgage company. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, do you know what mortgage is or what we do here? And I'm like, yeah. And totally lying through my teeth because, you know, you're going to say whatever you need to say to get the job. And then so she started explaining to me a little bit about like what she's, you know, looking to have me do. And it was easy stuff. And I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, this is a mortgage company. And I remember going with my mom and dad to a mortgage company when they were refinancing the house. And I was like 8 years old. And I just remember sitting in the chair being bored out of my mind because all they did were signing loan docs and just talking numbers. And I was like, this has got to be like the worst job ever. I remember having that memory of it. And so she's like, well, you know, if we hire you, I would want you to pursue this as a career, like get your license and grow. So I said, sure, why not? And so she hired me, and I was ecstatic because, I mean, it was the first interview I had that was one-on-one. It was almost a year of not being able to get a job, being on unemployment, you know. So I started working with her and her husband, Mike Kinney, who is my manager. And I just started kind of learning the tricks and the trade of it all. You know, I started scanning tax returns, understanding how to read tax returns and bank statements, and pay stubs, and then I started learning about the loan products and, you know, how people qualify. And then 2 years later, I got my license, and so then I became a junior LO. And my first year was a refinance boom. It was, I think, 2014, and rates were about mid threes, so I was doing mostly refinances.
So now when people hear mid three, they're like pissed. They're like,
yeah,
right? They're like mid three.
I know, like I heard there were twos.
I heard 1.75 on the radio today.
Yeah, so I just got a couple under my belt and just fell in love. And it wasn't the whole paperwork aspect of it that I fell in love with. It was the people aspect. And I was such a introvert in high school. Like didn't have a lot of friends. I wasn't very talkative.
Now you're on a podcast.
I know. And this job just like totally made me just open up and just like, wow, this is something you were like almost born to do. Like it was almost, I always like say it was like a godsend. Like God was like, okay, this is what you're going to do and this is how good you're going to be at it, you know, without even knowing. You know, the relationship aspect of it is just amazing, you know, and now I'm going on 9 years with the same company, and I have this huge database of all these clients that I would call my friends because I get to know them, I get to help them through the years, they stay in touch, I stay in touch. So yeah, I literally fell into this industry and it's basically changed my life.
Do you feel like those 2 years of like being an assistant and like learning the process and like learning how to read things really brought you more value and could actually help you when you first became a junior LO?
Oh, it's all about experience. You know, you have to experience the start and end of an escrow to fully get it. I mean, I remember assisting for the other loan officers in my office and not understanding what escrow does. Yeah. Like, what does escrow do?
It's almost like a foreign language. It's like, I know people that are like in the industry, but their jobs are like, you know, maybe a recruiter or whatever, and then they'll be on the phone with you and they'll be like, I don't even, like, I'll hang up and they're like, I don't even know what you just said. Like, I have no idea. Like, and I'm like, but they're technically in the industry. But when you don't work with escrows and know the lingo and everything, it's like a foreign world.
It is. It took me forever. And the step process too of an escrow. I mean, there's probably like 60 people that touch one file through the entire escrow.
Yeah, what people don't understand, you have 60 people. This is one downside of real estate. You have 60 people working on a file. If that file doesn't close, no one gets paid.
Exactly.
No one gets paid.
And there's so much behind the scenes that buyers and sometimes even real estate agents don't understand.
A lot of agents don't know.
You know, especially when it comes to the mortgage side and the escrow side and the title side. Yeah. I mean, there's been so many times where I've, you know, really didn't understand how many people were involved until I actually had to reach out at them one time or another on, you know, different transactions. So that was probably like, it took a good year to kind of figure all of that out. But the experience I had and just my managers and market leaders like really just pushing me in. I mean, they almost said you have to fake it till you make it. And it's not, you know, I did because of my personality. I had to. I mean, they made me drive around and have these folders advertising our business to all of the local real estate offices. This brand new loan officer, like, you know, trying to walk
They're
in
like,
and
she's
say,
young.
"Hi, how are you?
She'll do all right.
Have you heard of Movement Mortgage?"
Yeah.
Like, I had a job one time before where I was a full commission employee with, they called it Tri-Universal, and it was the company that Home Depot and other big corporations would hire, and they would have these salespeople walking through the Home Depot selling tub liners and cabinet refacing.
Yeah.
Like, I had to do that.
I'm a renter. Every time I'm a renter, they're like, okay, never mind.
Exactly.
You can't make any money off
I had one guy tell me, he's like, "I'm here to buy a shovel.
Yeah.
Thank you." And I was just like, okay, oh my gosh, okay. But I think that's what kind of got me prepped for the sales side, because everyone thinks sales is so scary.
For sure. I think sales is like the hardest game, because it's like, that's why I don't understand salespeople that sell stuff, because selling is selling. Doesn't matter what product it is. I don't know why people sell things they don't make.
You have to believe in it.
You have to believe in a product.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the thing that people don't get. It's like, I would never sell anything else because I don't believe in those things, right? I believe in, you know, I'll steal a Doug Shepard line. Doug Shepard's an agent, a longtime agent in Riverside. He always says, "I don't sell houses, I sell home ownership."
That's
and
great.
It's true. He sells home ownership, and that's what people need to realize. You're buying home ownership. You're not buying a house.
I had a little one.
Yeah.
I said, "I don't originate loans. I originate relationships."
Oh God, she's gonna make.
I was gonna make a T-shirt out of it.
Make a T-shirt. Oh, listen, I have the T-shirt that says, "I don't sell houses.
There you
I
go.
solve problems." So
there you go.
But I think that's the interesting thing. I think a lot of people fail in the industry is that, especially realtors. You know, loan officers are a little bit different because you kind of have a team around you. They're kind of invested in you. But agents are an issue because they're really dime a dozen, and an agency will take them in, and they don't really know the process, and they don't learn how loans work or escrow works or title works. It's frustrating when it's like they don't even know, and it's when a CD is going out, and what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And like, what do you mean we can't close tomorrow? Oh, I have a CD. The CD needs 3 days, and Sunday doesn't count, and
yeah. I mean, it is nice to have an agent know that stuff
for sure.
But it's something that also, as long as they can work well with me, like, and let me do my job and help and let me, you know, guide the borrower through the loan transaction, then that's great too. I think that's huge about, I mean, you know, having a relationship, a team with your lender or your realtor, whoever you are, is like the most important part when it comes to providing the best service to your client.
Well, I think she said a great thing right there, and I don't think you realize it. You have to realize you have to have the great team around you.
Oh, for sure.
No, this doesn't happen with just one person.
No.
You have to have, because if there's one like weak link, that weak link's always exposed in a transaction every single time. If it's a weak agent, if it's a weak buyer, if it's a weak seller, if it's a weak escrow or title. Anytime there's a weakness, it always it's just like, and then you're just waiting for it to like, oh God, I just hope we can get through this without something bad happening.
You're like dreaming about it, losing sleep, like how am I? Cause it's usually when I have to work with the borrower's preferred agent who I've never heard of, and like I don't know how
they work,
what his experience is, and I just had a really messy one last year where I was like, okay, I'm going to really try and be there for my client and maybe also help them find the right agent. Yeah. The agents that I know that I work with are going to, you know, provide the best service. That's something that I would also want to start working on more, because I do find myself in that situation a lot of the times, and it works out. But my whole job, like, I'm not just here to do the loan, get it done. I wanted to also provide a great experience to the client. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, because gosh, how many times have you heard a buyer come to you and be like, "Oh, this is the worst experience like ever. We're not looking forward to this whatsoever. Yeah. Like, we just need to get through this." For you know. Sure.
So let's get back to like when you were just starting out, right? You're going into an industry that you know nothing about. You're just grateful to actually have a job. So what was your mindset, and if you can remember, like going like, okay, I was supposed to be a graphic designer. Now I just am happy to have a job. What was the day? Do you remember when it kind of clicked over where you were like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to go full board at this, and I know I can have a good life living this life.
Oh, well, it was getting my license and becoming like the junior LO that I became, and like doing my first loan without having any sort of assistance by my market leader or my manager.
Was it the doing the loan, or was it getting that your commission check?
Oh, I mean, both.
Yeah. No,
Not
don't
gonna
say
lie.
both. Don't say both. At the moment, listen, I remember.
okay.
I remember when I got my first deal accepted. I remember I was laying in bed, and I remember being like 2 months into this industry, not knowing what I was doing. And I remember the agent texting me, going, "Hey, we're gonna go with your offer," and me just being like jumping up and down in bed, and being so excited because I had no idea how far we were away from. How far I was away to actually getting paid. We almost canceled that deal, and I remember receiving my first check, and I was like, okay, let's do one more.
Yeah.
We can do one more, right? Let's do one more.
I actually remember where I was sitting when I checked my my bank account that morning. I was sitting in my little like makeup chair, like getting ready for and I'm like, I know it's coming.
Yeah.
But we are always paid a month behind. And so I had to wait. I already had this closed, and I knew I had an idea of how much I was gonna get, and then boom, it was right there, and I was like, ah! Like I wanted to cry.
Yeah.
Like it was just. And that was just when I was like doing a couple of loans a month, and being so grateful and satisfied over just that hurdle that I got over, not only just finding like another dead end job, because I've worked so many jobs. I mean, I worked 2 jobs at one time in my life, and like deciding like, wow, this is actually going to be a career. Like just an eye opener was like, wow, like this is crazy. And then I was just thinking like, I hope this doesn't burn me out. I hope that I made the right decision of like the company I chose to work for, and like the people that I chose to work around, because, getting into an industry without knowing anything or having any experience.
It's very dicey.
You have to look towards someone that has experience, Luckily, my market leader and manager, they've been doing this for 30 years. Like, and they don't even bat an eye to some of the issues that might come up. I mean, I remember I used to sweat over the small stuff like crazy.
Used to?
Oh, used to. I sweat a little bit.
Thank God we weren't friends back then. Holy crap.
I know, right? Oh my gosh, I'd be like, I used to lose sleep. Like I used
block your number. Hey, listen, I say you do. You get so committed with these clients, especially. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. There's some clients you like more. There's some clients you vibe with. There's some clients that you're just. There's some clients you're just pulling for, and it sucks so much that no one talks about in this industry. And I think realtors get a little bit more than loan officers, but it's like I have to tell you every time you walk in a house that you love that we did not get it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna in this crazy market, I'm gonna tell you more times you don't get a house than you do get a house, and it's hard. It takes like a beat. I don't care who you are. It's rough.
When's the first time you realize you're actually more of a therapist?
Oh, that's all we are.
That's all we are. Is
or like people that come to you and they're like, you're like, I'm sorry, you can't qualify for a house.
Yeah,
it's a terrible feeling.
It's not. Or like if they have credit issues, like this stuff is very embarrassing to open up to a complete stranger. So that's also something that I have really tried to work hard on. Is like I'm a hand holder. I'm going to baby them as much as possible because I feel like that's what they deserve, especially since they are totally vulnerable. Sometimes there's things that they don't even want to tell you, and you have to end up finding out anyway.
Which is the worst.
It's the worst. And then you still have to make sure they're not going to feel uncomfortable with you by you approaching and bringing it up. Like, hey, we found this out, and this is why we found this out, and we just have to work through it together, so... But for the most of the loans I have, like it's always a good experience. And so like when I first I think that my first commission check was just an eye opener, because sales sky's the limit, right? No matter how hard you work, you could always do more and more. My
grandpa always told me.
And it was like I never wanted to believe it, because I always wanted that security of like just a regular paid 9-to-5 job, And like there was slow times in my career so far. I mean,
actually, now I kind of embrace them for a second.
Yeah.
Really? You like kind of like.
Well, after last year and this year, like starting off, it's like I don't get to have a vacation ever. I mean, I do go on vacation, but luckily my husband understands because I'm literally on my laptop every time we drive. Like if we're going to the Sierras or we're going somewhere else, I'm literally on my laptop.
But I think people need to realize that you want to be successful in a job, like that's what it takes.
Yeah. Oh,
you know? And I think that's the one thing that people don't understand. They just see, and I go Joelle crap about this all the time, but they just see like the instant gratification of one photo, but they don't see the computer on your desktop or taking that phone call or that client crying you know, and I think people need to realize too is like, listen, I've been in a dirtier house than yours, trust me, right? And I've seen worse credit than yours.
Exactly.
Trust me.
I tell them
Literally,
all the time.
Like, I have people, and the funny ones are the houses that are like really clean, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's like really, I'm like, dude, I've literally had to step over dog poop in people's houses before. Like I've seen dead rats in people's houses. Like you're never gonna compete, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that's the thing that people don't understand. It's like we're just like doctors, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're just like lawyers. We're just like doctors. Like, we've seen worse than you. We'll see worse.
And we don't judge.
And we don't care.
We don't even. Sometimes people go, oh, well, don't look at my transactions. I'm like, I don't. Unless it's like a large deposit. I don't even look.
I don't even care.
I don't care.
I really don't care. I don't care unless the underwriter calls it out.
Exactly.
I really don't care.
Exactly.
Right? Whatever you're buying, sweet. Don't open a credit card.
Sometimes people call themselves out like, oh, I know I ate way too much at Del Taco. Like, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. So you know, a big reason why I want to have you on is it's super impressive to me, especially even though real estate is more of a, by numbers, a woman industry. You know, you can't say a lot of the bigger producers are men, right? Agents and loan officers and those kind of things. How do you feel like you've kind of fit in your style into kind of an industry where you kind of have to put your foot down? Right?
Yeah. That's probably been my biggest challenge.
This industry is like, you got to have a backbone with everyone, with other agents, with other loan officers, with other clients, because people are always trying to take advantage of loan officers and realtors.
Yeah.
And so how do you handle that? Because I know that's probably a big woman issue, right? Where it's like, well, I don't want to come off as a bitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Adrian, don't edit that, right? Like, or I don't want to come off this way, or that balance. How do you manage that balance?
So it was really hard. I think I'm still learning. I don't think
I get
I'm
mad at you all the time.
I still don't think I have a backbone. Like, I mean, I'm way better than I was, but I do remember, like, you almost start off as being really desperate, and you're desperate for business when you first start out. So, and when I started, there was no young people in Riverside.
Still,
I mean,
really not.
There's more that I've seen through the years, but when I was first starting out, there was no one I was working with that was younger than 30, you know? And I was 22, so everyone was significantly older than me. And I remember, like, some of the agents, man, would just, like, treat me like crap. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm on your team. Like, we have one thing in common, is to make this deal close. And I don't understand why you have to be so, like, they were aggressive with me. They're, you know, questioning my experience, or you know, sometimes I get judged because I'm a woman. For you know, especially, like, I've had some agents where that's why they chose not to work with me, because I was young and a woman in this industry. And I used to always go to my market leader about these kind of things that I was getting back, and just, you know, obviously knowing this is a normal thing, but still, like, I'm such a person that cares so much that it would, you know, hurt my feelings, or how do I overcome this? How do I train myself to not care as much, you know? And she was just like, you know, it doesn't matter how many years you've been doing this. I mean, 10 years ago, the whole guidelines and mortgage laws and regulations were completely, like, different than they are today. Like, you don't need to be doing this for 30 years to know everything. You need to know what is going on in the present time. And so, you know, that really encouraged me. And me working at my company, we had a very unique process that kind of help us stand out from the other competitors. So I was able to reach a lot of people that, you know, were used to the same old process. So, and once they, you know, got a chance to experience, like, a newer way, like, that's where I was really good about, you know, building relationships and stuff. But it was difficult, and it still sometimes is. I mean, now I do almost have 10 years under, you know, my belt, which is awesome to say, with the same company, by the way, because, you know, mortgage lenders, they like to jump around. But that's only because of the team I have and the support I've had that far. But yeah, being young, especially when I started, and not having anyone my age in the industry was really hard. I mean, you were probably one of the first ones I've met that was around my age.
28?
Yeah.
Well, I was 28.
Yeah. So 27. Yeah. Which was like what?
That's why I don't think people understand too. Like it's so hard, and the average person in real estate is 55 years old.
Or you get excited for that newbie, that young, vibrant person, and then next year they're out.
They're out. I mean,
you know?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Especially so. You went into a career that you weren't expecting. You put your grit down. You worked your butt off, and it's actually crazy. And I said this, I think, in the last podcast is that every person that comes in who's successful says the same thing: a lot of work and the right team around you.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I hope, like I said this, I think the other day, and I said, I hope people are starting to realize it's hard work, and it's who you have surround you, because there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be things you're going to come across that you're not going to know.
Yeah.
And you need to lean on towards someone, because you can't do this alone.
Yeah.
You got to have experience.
Well, you also have to understand, like, you got to do what's working, and what's working is, being able to stay consistent with working, Like this job is so easy where you can be like, yep, I'm going to take Thursday through Sunday off. I'm not going to answer my phone call or my phone calls and text messages. Like this job allows you to be able to.
It's scary. You got to check yourself all the time.
Yeah, because you can definitely get lazy. I mean, I've seen so many lenders come through our office and
come and go.
They come and go because they're not producing, and it's like, well, you got to produce.
That's why I kind of like having an assistant and staff, because it's like if I don't produce, then I have to fire people.
Yeah, it's your motivation, right? Yeah,
I do not want to fire you.
Keep them fed,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Keep my family fed. I mean, obviously having a family is one of my biggest motivators, and it's so crazy to even think I've become this successful, because I just never thought I was going to be this successful.
What's crazy is a girl who dropped out of college.
Yeah.
That is now
art school.
10 years later is now a successful loan officer.
I grew up wanting art to be my life, my passion, and I'm an old school artist. Like I paint and draw. So computer technology, all that stuff was super hard. I was okay at it. I could do it, but I mean, to be what they call a starving artist is exactly what I was going to be.
Sure.
I said, $90,000 in debt with student loans, and coming out with no jobs available as a freelance artist, I was going to put myself in a really bad situation. So I had to make that decision.
Yeah, it's crazy how everything happens for a reason, right?
Dude, I'm telling you, that's why I
tell myself all the time.
I still pinch myself sometimes because I'm like, I can't believe it's been almost 10 years. It's been 10 years and I'm with the same company. I mean, and my company is great. I have a 401k that I've built up, and it's just, I still feel that young 22-year-old though.
Yeah.
Time flies, but at the same time, every year it's gotten better and better and better. So
you're a full-time loan officer, right? You're a mom of two. You're a wife. You're an artist.
Well, I haven't painted in over 2 years.
No. Then perfect. The last painting you did for me. So.
I've been starting new ones.
She's my own personal painter.
I've been trying.
How do you handle balancing all those things? Because obviously, a lot of people I remember always hear saying is like, well, if you want to be successful, then your family life gets hit, or if you want this, then that. How do you balance, and what advice can you give to young professional women that you've been doing this for 10 years and you've been successful for every year for a reason? What advice can you give to have a little balance in their life?
I think it's important to just have a schedule. Babies is, they never got in my way, because I was able to actually step back and be a mom when my kids were born. And I actually was able to stay longer with them versus the 6 weeks that we're normally used to of coming back from maternity leave. But our situation with my husband, he's a huge help with where he works too. So it's been not that difficult to juggle everything, but I just stay consistent with my weekly schedule. I try to get to work at the same time every day. I try to get home at the same time every day, because once I'm home, it's 2 or 3 hours of full-on family time. Dinner, bathing, getting the kids ready for bed. Easton's in distance learning, so we have to catch up on some of his work sometimes. So my job allows me to have that flexibility, but I can't waste the time that I have away from my family, because that's my time to keep my business going, to keep myself, progressing more and more and more and growing more and more. So I feel like my advice to a younger lady is to just work your butt off before you get married, before you have kids. Line yourself up right, and then, when you are ready to get married and have kids. You know, I actually got my license when I was having my first son, my first kid, my son. I was actually nursing him when I was studying for the test, and I was kind of on a time frame because I really wanted to get that thing passed and start working and making more money than I was, because now I have a kid. But it would have been a lot easier if I was to have gotten my license prior to having my kid, because I remember there was times where I was struggling with a him on my hip while I'm on the computer studying mortgage loans and guidelines and prepping for my tests. So I feel like if you can really focus on setting yourself up right with your career, and then, you know, once you have to step back for a little bit while you're having your family, it won't be as scary or as bad, you know, as far as it making effect on your overall like financial situation, you know. So and I have a passion for my job. You know, if you don't have a passion for your job or you don't like your job, then it's going to reflect. You know, there is times where I'm drinking more wine than I should, or, you know, I'm a little bit more upset than I should be at time. But that's what comes with the job. You know, I mean, if you are dealing with so many people on a daily basis, there's always going to be some drama. There's always going to be some hurdles. But, you know, if you just stay true to who you are, like, I just feel like people could say I'm a nice person, you know, all in all, like, because I know I am, you know, and I spill that out to people, like, and I over communicate sometimes, you know, I talk too much sometimes, you know, I might hold someone's hand too much, you know, through the process. I mean, there's sometimes people, you know, we don't clash well, you know, and everyone's going to be like that. But going back to giving advice, I think that's the best advice I can give and then just keep chasing your goals. Because I never knew this was a goal of mine until I realized how good I was at it. And now it's just like every year I'm like wanting to be better and better and strive for more and more. And it's so motivating to go from where I was and knowing that I could easily be okay in that situation to being where I am and being like, wow, I can seriously just be fine with this, but why not go even further? You know, why not push myself to the limit, to the edge, to see how big and how much I could do for myself and for my family and for my peers and my friends and my, you know, everyone, you know. It's just, it's a great feeling to know, like, how you just don't know, right? Like for you, example, like did you know you were going to be doing podcasts in your real estate office like 4 years ago?
No, I wish I started 4 years ago.
But like you got this idea and it's like amazing, and you're just like riding that wave of like, wow, this is just getting better and better and better. But it also sets you up for you have to be serious about it. So it's kind of the same thing as like that motivation that comes from success is just going to power you the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just never get to that level to get enough.
They don't. Yeah,
get enough
it's like
fuel
they
in the
get
pipe.
burnt out or they get lazy or they never get that taste. You know, that desire.
Real taste.
Yeah, and
the taste of how much if you work really hard, not just work, but work really hard.
And it's not easy.
No, it's hard.
You know,
it's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And we had someone on the other day that says the bigger problems you solve, the more money you'll ever make.
Yeah.
And that's all about solving people's problems.
It is.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what industry. So, Joelle, I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
For being a true boss babe.
Thank you.
And inspiring, hopefully, some young women out there to show that you can be lost at 21, not have a job, get a random interview and just happy to take something, to then skyrocket 10 years later being a successful,
it's a great testimony. It's awesome. Like,
loan officer. A true example to how people should live life, and a great wife, a great mom, and I'm excited to see what the next 10 years bring you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Of course. Well, guys, appreciate you guys watching. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, please share, and until next time, guys, peace.